Recording in progress.
Started here. There are Title VI forms on the back table. If you care to fill one of those out, you can do so and turn it in at the auditor's office. I'd like to ask Dr. Howe to lead us in the pledge, followed by prayer. Aaron Jackson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow. Father, we thank you for the gift of democracy. We thank you that we get to choose fellow citizens who will serve us. And we thank you for these fellow servants that they have the heart to serve. We pray, Lord, that you will be at work in this meeting. We pray for people of our county, for their safety. We pray also that selfishness and greed that's so easy to fall into will be overcome by compassion and righteousness. Do your good work here, Lord, today. In Christ we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jeremy. You guys have seen the minutes, any questions or corrections?
I didn't have nothing from you. Make a motion to approve.
Second. Concurred, minutes approved. Claims. Any questions on claims?
Not have any questions. Nothing from you this week either.
I had one, I asked Todd about it, it's just an explanation on Belter Seamless gutter bill, first page, $690. It says 5 foot of gutters and downspouts for new highway building. That was actually the old highway department. Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'd make that motion. Second.
I'll concur. Thanks, guys. Todd, or I'm sorry, got payroll to look at. Christie in here. Christie, I had a question on Abby Johnson. It just looks like it's regular payroll. Shouldn't it be FMLA or not?
She is not. She has enough PTO and everything right now that she's been using.
She's on that. Okay.
After this pay, like this next one, she will not have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve payroll. Second.
I'll concur that. Todd Howe?
Well, good morning.
Morning.
As far as for the county, we'll continue to do bridge maintenance. This maintenance that we're doing in-house is pretty extensive. I've kind of asked how long it's been since we've done bridge maintenance in this manner. And I was reported that it's been 18 years. So some of the work that we're doing is pretty extensive. Don't know if you guys have seen any of the work, but doing a lot of heavy riprap and pulling back some silting. It's really pretty extensive. Line of sight issues I'm starting to have right now in the county, cornfields. Some of the locals are pretty good about that when you ask them, and some of them are not. So I was wondering, was there an ordinance put in about that as far as how far they could plant to the road?
No, that center line, most of them.
So, but if anything, going forward on some of these, you know, when you go ask them, well, they're telling you about this neighbor and that neighbor, you know, they don't have a problem, but even though they gotta run the stop sign to get out there, it doesn't matter to them. So I don't know how I want to proceed with that. I need to have, maybe work with Chad, send us some letters if they do not want to do that, or have the sheriff's department go talk to them. But like I said, most of them are pretty good. And then you got a few of them that are not. We're continuing to mow out there in the county with bushwhacker and the bush hog. We're still spraying vegetation. And those road counts for 150 West, I contacted the lady from, I think it's Cipro. Those will be placed sometime this week. Okay? And it is just a road count. Which the road count, apparently talking with her, gives us a little bit more information versus the road study. So after she gets done with that, she's going to make attempt to come down and show me how to gather that information. Apparently that's on MDOT's website. I just don't know how to navigate through that. So she's going to take time to come down and show me. So once I get there at 4, I'll share that with you.
That's the road study portion of it, so we just gotta do a count and then a study in conjunction with that.
What they will do, it's a road study. It tells them, because I was asking her about what all that gathers. She says how many cars are on that road. It'll actually gather a speed limit. So when they cross those cords on the road, it'll actually give a speed limit. But there's a bunch of information that spits out, but it goes through their system and then they send that to NDOT. So once I get that, I'll forward that to you and let you know where we're at on that.
Have you reach out to maybe the traffic engineer over at the city and see if he can have any experience to help you with any of that guidance on over there?
I probably could.
See if he's got
You
something.
talk about Ron May?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can ask Ron.
See, he may be a resource to bounce some of that stuff off of.
Okay. So, yeah, I can reach out to him.
Okay.
Road graders, I have not received anything back from Andy as of yet. I did call him last week. He said he was on vacation because he called me the next day. So he's working with John Deere. Hopefully I'll have that information today. I didn't have anything over the weekend. So as soon as I get something.
I think Mark, didn't you ask by like August?
Yeah.
I think.
So we have something
August.
on, so we're okay.
I think that's okay. You can contact him.
Okay.
We're still within the time frame we were looking at.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, we had a breakdown with one of those road graders this last week. And the big thing was, number one, the John Deere people were trying to tell us he owned those and they didn't do his service work. And so anyhow, Tom came and asked me about it. I said, no, we hadn't purchased those yet. But there was
And the lease is not up yet till November.
I don't know, the guy in the shop just got wind that we were possibly thinking about buying them, and maybe he thought that, but anyhow, we had a warranty issue. I guess my only thought going forward, once we buy these, if we decide to buy them, okay, we'd have to make sure we get an extended warranty. Some of those parts and features on that are pretty extensive.
I'm pretty sure you're not gonna be able to get an extended warranty that with 6 years of age. We should certainly ask. At some point in time, that's the way the life game plays.
Okay. And then the last thing, I don't know if you want to bring it up now, but the community crossing grant award.
Yeah, while you're up the bat here, we'll go through that.
Well, it looked like O'Mara got the community crossing bid. They came in at $1,324,641.62.
So the question that I had, and I know that Mark had responded, but he talked about how the different roads, my question was, were the bids specified as far as the amount of asphalt that's going to be put down? Was that a reason that certain bids were lower than others? And the information that I got was that it was per ton. Thinking about that a little bit more this morning, is there a requirement, or since I don't know this, I don't know anything about building roads. How is it determined which road gets which, amount of asphalt?
Well, what they do is they actually come in and wedge the road to get the profile back. And if they got to wedge a certain amount in a certain length, then that may require more asphalt on that particular road. If it's just strictly just a simple wedge and an overlay, then it may just require 1.5 inches.
Tim has that, he goes down and actually does that calculation. Tim,
Yeah. So when they did the bid, they actually had to go look at every one of these roads, okay, just to see how much work they're gonna have to do.
Okay.
And that is something too I am still learning as well, so.
Through that bid process, I noticed that one of the major kind of differences between some of those bids was the mobilization charges. Is there any questions or concerns with that? Some of the mobilization charges were $7,000 or $8,000, and then some of them were at like O'Mara's mobilization number was $100. Basically on every bid, but the rest of them, I think Globe was at 500, and then another one was $6,000 or $7,000. It just seems like a large discrepancy between the two. I wanted to make sure that O'Mara's number was not a typo. It was like it was
No,
supposed to be 1,000.
They do that because Then if you look at their price per ton, that'll vary. So he puts his mobilization charge low, but his price per ton's a little higher. So if it underruns or overruns, which you can't overrun on a community crossing grant, but if he underruns, that is deducted by price per ton. They actually get paid off weight tickets. So everybody has their own little caveat of putting a bid together.
Thank you for answering that, Mark. My knowledge as well.
It was just a big discrepancy. It was
Yeah.
like, is that supposed to be $100 or is it supposed to be $1,000 or something like that? So,
And then as far as the,
We'll need to vote on that if that's your recommendation.
I'm sorry,
If you're you're recommending an Omer was low bid.
Yeah.
We need to vote. Commissioners need to vote on that while we're at that point.
I'd make the motion to accept the bid that was proposed by O'Meara.
I'll second.
No, concur. Now you can move on to your next section.
and then as far as furnished and applied, I don't know who. I know the binder. Was there a low bid on that, or was it all different sections of that?
You know, it goes to one bidder.
Okay. Well, it was one that was at $90 on number 9 binder, $90 a ton. Number 9 surface was $95 a ton. Number 11 surface, which was $100 a ton. And the tack was $3 a gallon. Milling and patching, number 9 hot mix, $175 a ton. Number 9 surface hot mix, $180 a ton. Number 11 surface hot mix, $185 a ton. And the tack at $3 a gallon. Milling cost was $75 per yard. Hot and cold FOB, number 9 surface was $60 a ton. Number 11 surface was a $65 a ton. Number 9 cold mix was at $70 a ton.
That wasn't cold mix price.
Huh?
That's not cold mix price, is it?
That's what I got on there. What they sent over.
That's what the spreadsheet says.
Okay.
Might want to check that bid. Because
That's what I want to see.
Oh,
Because nobody sells, this is the hot mix prices. I don't think anybody sells cold mix for $70.
You guys run a 3D comparison on that?
Yeah, I'm saying, I'm looking at it here.
That's Dave O'Meara, and that's the other company.
DC, yeah.
That is all the, that is the comparison of those across the board. We should be line that together.
Yeah, line for line.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Mhm.
We don't have cold mix. We don't make cold mix. Our cold mix is 220, that's typically what it
Right,
is.
that's what, because I had seen O'Meara have their cold mix listed as 70.
Let's see, the hot mix. So that's
We have that. Do you guys have that actual bid?
right here. This,
Oh, that's what, okay.
these are not that on the screen. This is on there right here. See, these are, this number up here
One morning, IT's not second.
is put down. This is really patchy. This is column.
I know area planning.
These numbers here and here. This guy, they're completely out of whack.
So the only place I saw quote was high was on the tackless tack, like 50 cents. Everything else is.
Excuse myself on the.
Yep. Janet, do you know how to put this up on the screen?
I do not.
Sure.
Jeremy, did you see it?
Yeah, I got it here.
And I've got it on mine as far as the numbers.
Do we want to read those off? I can do that if we want to.
Yeah, I think probably the best way, how it's there on the screen.
Okay.
So that it's.
So
going
hot mixed
straight
and
across.
furnished applied. Number 9 binder, Globe has it $82. Dave O'Meara has it 90. Let me get the other name of the company here.
Paul Rowe,
Paul Rowe has that
they're 90 also.
120.
That is,
DC.
DC. Paul Rowe is also at 90.
See, I didn't see all those numbers on our spreadsheet. I'll need to get those, I guess.
The original spreadsheet there at the very top.
Paul Rowe is at 90. Number 9 surface hot mix. Let me get back to the right spot. I'll move down. Number 9 surface Globe was at 87.50. Dave O'Meara was at 95. DC was at 110. And Paul Rowe was at 92. Number 11 surface Globe 88.50. Dave O'Meara 100. DC at 110. And Paul Rowe at 92. Tackless tack $3.50 from Globe, $3 from Dave O'Meara, $15 from DC, and $4 from Paul Rowe. Milling and patching, Globe at number 9 binder hot mix at $82, $175 from Dave O'Meara, $155 from DC, $180 from Paul Rowe. Number 9 surface hot mix, $87.50 from Globe. Number 9 surface hot mix at $180 from Dave O'Meara. DC at $121 and Paul Rowe at $185. Number 11 surface hot mix from Globe, $88.50, $185 from Dave O'Meara, $119 from DC, and $185 from Paul Rowe. Tackless tack, NDOT specific, $3.50 from Globe, $3 from Dave O'Meara, $15 from DC, and $4 from Paul Rowe. Hot and cold mix FOB from Globe, $68. Dave O'Meara at $60. Hot and cold mix from DC at $104. $70 from Paul Rowe. Number 11, surface hot mix, $73 from Globe, $65 from Dave O'Mara, $104 from DC, and $70 on the Paul Rowe. Number 11, cold mix, no bid. Number 9, cold mix, no bid from Globe, $70 from Dave O'Mara, $220 from DC, and $150 from Paul Rowe. Number 11, cold mix, no bids from anyone. Tackless tack, no bid from Globe, $3 from Dave O'Mara, $15 from DC. That shows $150 from Paul Rowe. That may be for a cold mix. Yeah, that's cool. Number 11, cold mix.
So Todd, I have a question. When we're looking through all of this for the furnished and applied, is there something here through these different categories that is the most paramount, the thing that you use the most, or are all of these something that's commonly used that would be regularly used by you? You know, if there's one thing here that's going to be really high priced on one bid, but it's something you might only need on one particular job, that might sway me somewhere, versus if it's really high on a bid and really low on another one and you're using it, you know, every couple of days.
Most of the time, I think the biggest thing that we use on that is the milling and patching. And that would be for any kind of maintenance we had to do or repairs. Most of it's just milling and patching.
Okay. I might tell you guys that the tack, 0.8 of a gallon, the rate is 0.8 of a gallon per ton of asphalt. So for every ton of binder they put down, they'll use 0.8 of that tack number.
And then
tack is a minute amount of material that you use.
what is done then if you need something like the cold mix and we don't have a bid for it?
Currently, right now,
They've been buying it from Jennings County, right?
we go over Jennings County and buy theirs.
Okay. So there's still a way for us to get it
Yes.
when you need it. And what is the pricing then that you get? Is it a really high price from Jennings County, or is it
I think it's, it used to be $95 a ton.
Okay.
I think. I'd have to look at my records. I know that they just raised their price a little bit because things went up.
So you more commonly use like number 9 surface or 11, or just doesn't like it pretty even?
I don't know.
Okay.
They rarely use 9 surface. They'll use binder and 11 surface, typically the most of it.
Because I know Globe got the bid last year, and so Mark's been doing some milling and patching for us. Got some waterproof membrane put down on a bridge that he's going to have to come in and do. So we're just right now, I think most of the road cuts we've got taken care of. We just got a couple of bridge decks that we got to do that waterproof membrane.
So Mark said that he's recusing himself from this part of the discussion. Tony, when I look at these, I look at the numbers, it looks to me Globe is higher on a couple of things, but it looks like overall they're probably lower, especially in the areas that it sounds like Todd used the most. What's your impressions?
That's the same thing. I see there's only 1 or 2 spots on tackless tax 50 cents. There was only, I think, one other that was higher. Overall, it seems to be a little good for me from Globe. I can, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'll make the motion to accept that it was submitted by Globe for the furnished to apply.
I'll second.
Anything else, Todd?
I'm good.
What was the proposal when you were talking to the farmers that you were needing done as far as like the corn on the corners? Were you just like,
Well,
what I've seen in the past, the 3 foot, 4 foot up above the ear?
I think there's, like I said, some of them, in the past, normally we just call sheriff's department. But we've had dealings with them, and so easiest way for us to stay out is just let the sheriff's department go out there and investigate, line of sight. You know, you gotta have 100 feet line of sight. Okay, cars traveling 55 miles an hour. And, you know, some of these intersections, you gotta keep creeping out, keep creeping out, keep creeping out. And you're halfway out in the intersection where you can see, you know, and there might be just a two-way stop, you know, north and south, or.
But are you wanting to like, mow the corn down, or are you, like what I've seen in the past?
Just for example.
For me, is like taking corn stalk 3 foot up, 4 foot up above the ear, after you've gotten past like tasseling and all that, and that's where you would cut it. Like, so that's why I was asking what specifically you would look
Well,
at.
just to give you an example, I know that Paul Cray got a lot of ground, and normally, you know, we call him. For the most part, they've tried to go and mow it themselves, but when we call him, I mean, his comment to us is, Tim, go mow it. Do what you need to do. But there's some of them that, you know, maybe they go out and they hand chop their own to make sure. And then some of them just don't think it's a problem. But I think in a way to handle it, that's why I asked if there was an ordinance on that, how far you can plant to the road.
I don't think we've ever had an ordinance.
Maybe worth calling and seeing if there is anything in neighboring counties that addresses that, you know, for 300 feet from the center line of the intersection, can't plant anything within 10 feet of the edge of the road or something like that, the line of sight. And call around and see if Ridley or James or some of the other rural counties has anything that we can kind of look at. It's something we want to discuss. We don't think it would take a whole lot if we're looking for 400 feet. It could just be 5 or 6 feet off. I don't know how close they're getting that's doing that, or we're judging our line of sight from, whether it's from behind the stop sign or whether it's right up to the road edge or whatever. But
It'll be from behind the stop sign. You have to take a step back at an intersection and be able to look 400 feet both ways. But yes, I will reach out to some of the other counties.
Thank you, Todd.
One other thing concerning highway, we got an invoice for Strands this month. Their portion of their engineering is $12,100 that we paid by redevelopment, so we need to approve this.
Okay, I'd make the motion to approve.
second.
Thanks. Sheriff Bill McMorrow, you're up.
Good morning. I'd like to address our medical provider at the jail. I emailed you last week. We talked to 3 different companies. One was Advanced Correctional Healthcare. Their quote for the year was $417,999. Southern Health Partners, their quote was $208,000 per year. And our current provider, Quality Correctional Care, they have a quote of $151,095 for the year. And this is pretty much an apples to apples comparison, but there are a couple things. I'm recommending you go with Southern Healthcare. My reasons for that is, number one, Southern Healthcare is wanting to introduce Suboxone into the jail. And that's really to treat those with heroin addictions. Suboxone is a controlled substance. You can buy it on the street. You don't want it in my jail. This has become an issue for the Indiana Sheriff's Association as well. Nobody wants Suboxone in your jail. Yet quality control, quality correctional care is going to put that in as a safeguard, if you will, for those addicted to heroin. We've used other things such as Vivitrol. So that is a big issue. Second issue is our mental health. We get 4 hours per week of mental health. The person that quality correctional care has provided for the last few months, years, has only had a bachelor's degree. And just recently in May obtained her master's degree. And in fact, she's leaving quality correctional care in next month. So we're looking at a better health care plan. The courts have really worked well with us. If we have somebody in jail who's suicidal, has other mental health issues, if we can secure a bed with a good diagnosis at a secure facility, the courts have worked with us to OR that person that secure facility with the help they need. You know, I just don't think we're getting the best bang for our buck, if you will, for those who have mental health issues or suicidal in our jail. The last thing we want to do is incur more medical costs. So I've got Paula Holden here with me this morning from Southern Healthcare to maybe address the mental health issues as well as risk management and present what they provide for us. So Paula, if you want to come on up. If you have any questions for her, please feel free.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me this morning. I've been fortunate to have some communication with the sheriff and jail command in determining the kind of, medical program that they're looking for. So Southern Health has 29 years experience in correctional medical care. We operate now in 15 states. We've always been Southern Health partners. So one of the concerns that the sheriff had when speaking with him was mental health. And we know from our experience that mental health is not a standalone concern. These individuals usually also have health issues, a dual diagnosis with substance use disorder. So we really approach that from a total concept in looking at all those issues. We certainly always provide a licensed provider, but we also understand that communication is key. So when you have a mental health professional, you have an ND or a nurse practitioner, and the nurse, we really focus on having all those people communicate with each other because all those things are intertwined. And if there's no communication, then sometimes the outcomes aren't as good as we'd like them to be. We also understand that communication with the jail staff is key. So if someone with a mental health issue comes to the medical department or we go to the cell to see them, often they present very different to us than they do to the deputy that's with them on a daily basis. Sometimes they want to look better to us. Sometimes they're ashamed of how they're feeling or what they're doing. So we really approach that from a comprehensive standpoint to make sure that we get the best patient care for those people. We also have a strong risk management component. So we understand that it's being proactive and delivering quality patient care and reducing risk to the county is important. We have our own general counsel. Her and her staff monitor trends across the country, certainly across the 15 states where we provide services in healthcare, correctional healthcare. We also monitor medical litigation across the country. We monitor any changes in statutes, court decisions, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, because they all affect the delivery of healthcare. So we believe in managing those risks up front rather than being reactive to that. So our communications with the sheriff and jail command is really key in developing the program and reducing risk in delivering quality patient care. And our communications with them have been really great, and we've really enjoyed talking with them about the medical program.
Where's your nearest office?
Our corporate office is in Chattanooga. We have, some of the jails that we service in the area is Clark County Jail in Jeffersonville, Boone County, Lebanon. We have, multiple sites in Kentucky. I live about an hour and a half from here in Kentucky.
So your psych person that comes for the 4 hours a week, where would they be traveling from?
It depends on the applicants who applies. Usually we have, someone locally will apply for those positions. We, always prefer to have somebody with a background, in this area. So, but usually our applicant pool is local.
Bill, I know I asked you before the meeting that did everyone bid to the 130 prisoners
Yes,
per day average?
yes.
To come up with?
And we were at 123 this morning, so that's a little bit high ballpark.
Do you happen to know, I know that's your average number of inmates, do you happen to know what your average length of stay is?
3 to 6 months.
Depends on Mr. Harder.
Somewhat.
Are those, is the majority of those that are, majority of those that are in a lengthier stay, is that pre-trial, or is that somebody that would be on a violation of
Yes,
probation?
most of our length is in the pretrial. It is getting better on the sentence, DOC sentence side and level 6 felony side. DOC has kind of gotten back on track. For a while there, they were stalled due to COVID and as well as other backups. But now that they've kind of opened back up and got the RAC facility kind of moving again, now you're looking at from sentencing to when DOC, depending on how backed up they are, you're looking at anywhere from 3 weeks to a month, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on how fast we can get them from our facility to DOC.
We had 5 that left last week with the DOC.
If you go with Southern Health Partners with the possibility of Suboxone being used, what are you going to be doing as far as increasing treatment? And I'll preface this with my experience with Vivitrol is that a person can take Vivitrol, and if they were to ingest some type of narcotic again, they get physically sick. So it is something that would almost be prohibitive of them to actually attempt to go and find another narcotic drug again. So that's something that truly promotes staying clean versus Suboxone, where I see people fairly regularly who are addicted to Suboxone just as bad as they are addicted to any other narcotic drug.
We have used Vivitrol on a very limited basis at this point, and we've had no negative reactions to it.
Right. But I'm looking at people in a different manner. So what is your eligibility going to be for somebody to get Suboxone in the jail?
No,
Yeah,
we don't want it in there.
Okay. So we aren't doing it.
No.
no, we're drawing the line there. We're not going to have to talk in the jail.
So with Suboxone, you've got a window where if they've been on it 2 or 3 weeks, they can transition to Sublocade, which is a much better alternative for them in our facility.
Not more expensive.
It is more expensive, but if they have not been on Suboxone for a certain amount of days, we can just stop that as they come in the door. With Suboxone, you're treating one addiction for another.
Yes.
And it is something that can be abused and it's illegally. And we just really don't want it in the facility. There's other valid alternatives. And that's the biggest reason for us with Southern Health Partners, because QCC is really shoving this down. I mean, for lack of a better term, they're shoving it down the throats of the facilities. And that's just, it's not something we want to get into. There's some legal ramifications there, not only from our side, but
your current health contract expire?
I had Chad Smith, who is an outstanding attorney. I had him review our current contract of quality. It's a 30-day notice.
You'll be able to work this increase out in your budget then to the end of the year? You're gonna,
We will figure something out, yes.
as good as he is an attorney, he's not very good in the financial side of it. So don't turn to him to cover your costs.
So again, between the Suboxone and the mental health piece, we have to get better diagnoses on our mental health patients.
No, you guys kind of asked all the questions I was asked. The only other kind of questions or things I saw was the 4% increase on years 2s and 3s, and same question about the daily average inmate price increase at 130 to no idea what our average date is. I also do not think Suboxone in jail is a good idea. That in itself is.
I agree. Okay.
There you go. Motion?
I make the motion to accept the Southern Health Partners proposal.
I'll second.
No, concur.
Thank you very
What
much.
you got up next?
The ordinance on the body cam fees. We discussed that a couple months ago, and frankly, that fell through the cracks on my fault. Again, Chad Smith has prepared that ordinance, so it's needs your approval. So again, so we can charge the fees for the release of body cam videos.
Yeah. Was that the? Yeah, 150. That's what I thought it was.
That's basically for defense attorneys and stuff like that. That's who would be asking for that.
It'd be FOIA request.
Yeah, it'd be any public, your defense attorneys would be getting that through discovery anyways. Yeah. I'd make the motion, go ahead and approve the
Just look at it.
ordinance.
Number for this?
2023-11.
Okay, it's 2023-11. Which one made the motion?
I did.
I second.
And I'll concur. That's fine.
Thank you very much. That's all I have, unless you have something for me.
I know you gave us commissary numbers. Did you want to talk about commissary at all, or?
No, I don't believe there's anything there to discuss. Again, we're trying to save some money through cost for the purchase of vehicles coming up. So trying to be very strict with what we're spending there. But a lot of that is going back into the jail office for operating purposes.
Thank you. Ms. Dottie?
I sent out an email to everyone. Did you get it? Talking about the redaction, what the paper I have to get signed again every 4 years.
Yes.
That's all it is. Just to make sure that all of our documents are redacted. I have a security verification fund that it comes out of, because every document I record gets charged and put into that security. So I will bring this up as soon as the meeting's over so you can sign it.
Dr. Howe?
Good morning. I think we're about the end of getting our board rearranged in accordance with Rule Act 4. One of the things that's happened is Nick Peters has resigned his position. We hate to lose him, but Nick let his license expire so he could save a little money. Come to find out the law requires him to have a license. But that costs too much money to reinstate it, so he decided to drop membership. But we've got a couple of recommendations for you. One to replace Nick is Matt Weber, who's a pharmacist at the hospital. So I think he would be a very good replacement for Nick. And the other one's Kathy Simmons, who's a nurse who currently is working from home as in telehealth. Both individuals have great backgrounds in medicine and community service. So I think they would both be good members of the board. Would be my recommendation to appoint them.
So both of these are actually commissioners' appointments.
These commissioners.
Want to do them singularly? I'd entertain a motion to appoint Matt Weber and Kathy Simon to the health board.
I make that motion. I'll go.
I'll second.
And I would concur. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Krista. Did I skip Kenny?
You did.
Sorry. Come back up, get you.
Might have been.
She just walked in the room, so. I'm sorry. Where you go? Yeah.
Morning, gentlemen. This last meeting, I had 36 inspections, 18 new building permits and plan reviews, 1 permit review, 2 red tags, both for building without a permit. Permits were required. Last week, I met with a concerned property owner about nuisance properties in Bernie. I drafted 4 letters, and we didn't get them sent out last week. They're going to go out today. I also drafted a letter on a complaint in a nuisance property in Clarksburg. That one will also be sent today. This week, we'll follow up on letters sent to Sandusky Properties and St. Omer Property. The Lake McCoy committee met last Monday, and I'll need to look into the most dangerous properties for public safety and start drafting letters for that. I had 2 more complaints about remodels being done without permits in St. Paul. This is done this week. Krista and I had a complaint about semi-loads of bulk softener salt being dumped and pushed into a building. We told the person in charge what they needed to do as far as permits and construction design release from the state on the remodel work that had been done to contain the salt inside the building. And that's all
Have we had any follow-up on anything from the state? IDEM or the other on the construction phase of that?
IDEM said they got multiple complaints and they were looking into it, but that, I didn't get any specifics.
Are they still operating out of that building the way that it is?
I've been by there almost every day last week, locked up, tight as a drum, nobody's there.
Any follow-up from the attorney on actions that are potential for us to take if they continue to operate?
I've looked into some various avenues from our ordinances and the unsafe building statutes from the state level. I think there are some potential options there that I need to dig a little deeper into. I've developed a theory, but I'm not sure that it's fully supportable yet. So the short answer is I don't have a complete answer yet. Our ideal world would be that the state handles it at their level, IDEM, and the construction design release team comes in and handles it. They swing a bigger stick than local ordinance, so that would be best. But if they drag the feet too long, I'm going to keep looking into our options to close it and keep it shut until they comply.
I guess just kind of a public information side on this is a Morton building in its original construction, built on a slab, was converted with interior load-bearing walls, some sort of concrete construction for 4 foot tall, and then 2x6 walls above that are attached to the rafters and exterior walls of the Morton building. This building is the exterior of the building and the slab were inspected properly upon its construction. The interior walls were not state stamped, engineered stamped, or even permitted. Concerned neighbors in the area found out that the building was going to be utilized to hold large bulk salt by the hundreds of tons probably.
Oh, no.
And when I drove by, it was probably stacked 10, 12 feet high by 10 or 15 feet wide, being pushed in by bobcats, dumped outside and pushed in, and then being repackaged, I think, for sale for bar softener. So the concerns that were brought to our attention was whether the interior walls were capable of holding the exterior push of all the extra weight in that building. Also concerns with there were a fire or something to that effect, whether the salt that would come out liquefied would be properly contained, whatever cause environmental concerns. So that's what we're looking into, kind of in a nutshell of what the whole thing is. Just kind of put out there what the intents of the problem is. So everybody's working on that. Kind of a, I won't say one-off, but one in a long time, because most everybody just follows the rules and does what they said, so we don't have to react to it. In this case, we're reacting afterwards, so it is in operation. We've been kind of watching to see if they're actually doing day-to-day business, and if they are, whether we need to take action to try to shut it down. So IDEN's been contacted on the containment part of it, and then Kenny's been working with the state engineer, the state to find out if we need to do something there and actually lock and shut the doors and deconstruction of the walls. So those are the kind of questions we're asking and trying to figure out where we're going. Anything else that kind of covers it, right? Any follow-up with the Smith residents? I think the letter the attorney sent gave them 30 days from receipt, which should have been.
Which is a week from today.
Another week from now. Okay, so
Lawsuit,
follow up August.
Lawsuit will be filed next Monday or Tuesday if there's no response or action from them, which I assume there hasn't been.
I checked last Sunday and they were up to just playing around. There's still vehicles so close to the road you couldn't see around.
I did receive a call from the property owner about the tenant. She said that they'd be working on it and that the tenant, her son, had a job and work and trying to get that done. I told her the original complaint was that the line of sight for the road was the number one issue. We kind of progressed a little bit farther past from that, and that would be their priority to avoid any abatement, in my opinion. Of course, that'd be a commissioner's decision by the board, but that should be their priority, is to get the road edge cleared, and we can continue discussion and avoid at least the filing of the abatement charge. But she needed to get in contact with Kenny, advise and updates when she thought that was going to be cleared prior to the date that was set by the county attorney. So we'll follow up that on the next meeting. Any communication from the property in Les? We sent that letter, I think, the last meeting.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's
The neighbor is
looking to purchase.
currently looking to, I don't know about, I said, mention purchase, and then he said acquire. So that's whatever. I don't care. He said that as soon as he gets the title, he is going to contact me, and we're gonna get together and see what has to be done.
Resolution plan in place for this.
Exactly.
So we can take that off and we're probably okay for now.
I wish they all worked out that.
Hopefully they will.
Yeah, so far.
I don't have anything else. Okay, Krista.
I have two ordinances for you today. The first one is 2023-10. Adam Smith is subdividing, they're splitting up their farm trust between the brothers, and he's getting 25 acres. He's wanting to rezone 2.99 acres from an A1 to A2 to build a single family dwelling.
All present on the board voted yes on it.
I think motion to approve.
Second.
I would concur.
And then I have 2023-8. Alan and Anita Jones are requesting to subdivide and rezone 2.99 acres. Again, to build a single family dwelling.
Was that one?
Down off, I think it's 1,000.
Everybody present voted. And one abstention.
Voted for it.
Everybody voted for it.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We tried to get through the drainage ordinance, but I'll have that out this week. I was hoping to take it to the APC board, July, August. But we don't have any petitions, so there won't be a meeting. So I will take it to them in September. Probably bring it to you at the same time, so we can get through that. That's all.
Miss Diane,
Good morning. This is to try to create an ordinance. I've sent emails to Chad on this about unpaid property taxes on parcels. When there's transfers, quitclaim deeds, splits. I checked with the State Board of Accounts to see if there was an actual IC code, and there's not. But maybe we could do something with the ordinance. There's a lot of tax dollars that are sitting on these parcels. And the most recent was transferring of 2 parcels that are currently on the tax sale. SRI, Zach Hughes said he can send both parties letters, if you can find them, to mention that there are back taxes. He said he could put it in the description when it's advertised. However, when you do so, it could create a lawsuit for the county, being that you're being specific with one parcel versus another. So he really kind of opted out on that. And then we had, let's see, okay. We had another one that sold. I'll use you guys up here as an example. And then Tony will just, talk about the Lake McCoy issue. There's a bunch of properties out of Lake McCoy. So you have Seymour Rental. Mark has a garage that's overlapping yours because it's owned by 2 different people. You can't sell it. And then the same property you own the following. Well, there's an open that was sold on a tax sale that Patty owns in 2019. Well, they never took it to deed. So it's currently up for tax sale again. The front row here then was transferred, which this property here was currently on tax sale, but was sold to the people that own these 2 lots here. Now, technically, if he wanted to buy this at the tax sale, he could not, because he still owns taxes on these 2 parcels. Tony had made a comment, whether we could still sell these, even though one overlaps. Check with Zach Hughes of SRI. Unless they're owned by the very same owner of record, you cannot put them on the tax sale, even though all these were back taxes and they're eligible for tax sale. If they're not owned by the same person, you can't sell them. But the real issue today is trying to put up some type of a letter of ordinance that prevents us from transferring any property unless those back taxes are paid, because otherwise they're just sitting there. Like one owner has like at least $15,000 sitting there. And we're having a real issue of whether you can go ahead.
When you say transfer, you mean the sale of that how can anybody sell anything if there's back taxes on it? I mean, there's got to be state code on that.
I know. I asked Lori
They do a lien
Rogers.
search and all that. I mean, you can't go.
I mean, if they're running title searches, the tax lien should show up, but simply quit claiming, which happens very often, nobody may be running title searches, and then they present them for being recorded. And our recorder's office, I assume, is instructed to record when presented with a valid deed. Where's Donna? Knew she was here somewhere.
Hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they bring in a valid quitclaim deed, the recorder's office will record. And
So that's a cash probably. If there's a bank involved in that, that's a whole.
I was gonna say, financing, yeah, you're not gonna have stuff like that get through, but you know,
Somebody just
you have land sale contracts and other various mechanisms of how property gets thrown around. that ease the challenge. And I know the first email from Diane said they had something like this for UCB. And my question was whether or not there was an ordinance in place, because I do have a gut feeling that it'd be a hard time prohibiting people to transfer of property. I'm not sure how legal that is. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it gives me some worry that you're impeding people's ability to transfer property, which is a basic right they have. So I'm not saying you can or you can't, I just don't know yet. So do some research, I guess.
Janet?
At one point, we had a county attorney said we cannot prohibit the transfer of property if there's taxes owed, because the taxes stay with the land.
Well,
That's,
and oftentimes the purchase contracts will specify tax obligations, and now you're also interfering with the right to contract. It's a lot of interference of rights by the government that aren't always
yeah,
going to
not
hold
that I
up.
agree with that.
So I'm not saying there's not a way to do it, but it's certainly problematic for you guys to take that route. I'll look and give you a better answer, but that's my gut impression right now.
Diane, you have anything else?
No, that was it.
Nate?
Good morning. Good morning. For the record, my name is Nate Harder. I am the Decatur County Prosecutor. That's not the capacity in which I'm here today. I am a member of the Insurance Committee. I don't speak for that committee. I don't chair that committee. And so to be honest with you, I think I'm a little baffled by why I'm the representative of the committee, other than maybe I'm the only one foolish enough to agree to stand up here and talk about it. So here I am to do that. The question about whether part-time positions, to include the council of commissioners, ought to be receiving health insurance has been batted around for a number of years now, and with a variety of different motivations for the people who have been batting it around. I think, if you'll bear with me for a second, there's an analogy here. I've had the benefit as a member of the IPAC, Prosecuting Attorneys Council Legislative Committee, to take part in a lot of legislation at the state level and watch how they work. And one of the things that you'll see with a great deal of frequency is that bills go to a committee first before they go to the full body of the legislature, whether that's the House or the Senate. And when a legislator has concerns about a bill but isn't opposed to it, a lot of times what you'll see is they'll vote to pass the bill out of committee, but they'll explain their vote and say, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this, but I agree it should be discussed by the full body. Well, the Insurance Committee is a committee. It's a little like that. I think that the discussion around whether these benefits ought to be extended and in what manner was something that's been discussed by the committee, but it is unlike other recommendations that body has made, where we said, this is the contract we think you should adopt. This is the rate we think you should adopt. We think you should switch to a consumer-driven healthcare plan with HSAs instead of a traditional PPO. Those were very specific, please do this recommendations. My recollection of the meeting, and Mark, you were there with me in that meeting, was we think this needs to be discussed. We think that this is worthy of a bigger and broader discussion, but it's ultimately not our call. And what I remember, I think the conversation was saying to Mark Horst, this is a commissioner's issue more than it is ours, but we are in favor of this discussion happening. And at least preliminarily, if the commissioners were to decide to eliminate that benefit from part-time elected officials, then we would be on board with that. So I know that the discussion has taken on a life of its own since then, in terms of compromises and sunsets and grandfathering, and that I think is the way it was supposed to be. I think it was always intended that this would be a broader discussion, as opposed to a, here's our recommendation, get rid of it immediately from the body. So I don't envy you the position that you're in of having to discuss this and figure out the details, but I do think that the conversation has been a healthy one, and one that's been sought after for a number of years now.
Was the general final consensus decision.
Right.
That commissioners and members of county council should not be eligible for insurance. Was that the general consensus?
I think that's a fair statement, and I don't think there were dissenting votes from that. But with the understanding that we're okay with that outcome, but we're not saying that has to be how it happens.
Question, you talk about part-time, does that include the surveyor and the coroner?
That has been something that's come up since the time that the recommendation was made. It was not anticipated by the committee, to my recollection, in our discussions. Now, since then, yes, it's been part of the discussion to say, ooh, yeah, they're part-timers too. Maybe they should be included in that discussion.
Would it extend to any elected official who fails to maintain full-time hours? Because no elected official is required to work a certain number of hours.
That's true.
Some are required to work 1 day a month, some are required to work 1 day a year. So would it extend to any elected official who fails to maintain a full-time schedule for a set period of time?
I think that's a very fair question too. It's not something that was anticipated by the body.
But by the city attorney, we're 24/7. Elected officials are on call 24/7, regardless of their status, whether they're in this building or in a county building.
And I suppose that would be true for council and commissioners as well, right? Especially during fair weekend. We have picked the right week for the commissioners to talk about their status and the number of hours worked.
And while the fair has certainly been taxing for most of the guys every week, between phone calls and the 7 or 8 committees we sit on and the various things. I mean, it's evenings, it's weekends. There is no off time. Fair week is extra binding at this point, but I mean, all weeks are pretty busy with that. So those are certainly concerns that I had, whether it extended to all or whether we're just naming positions and saying, oh, well, they're part-time. How that part-time designation was to be determined, and then the extension of that to any person who fails to maintain these requirements to become or be counted as a full-time, and then how that would be documented moving forward.
As I say, the analogy to the state legislature is a pretty apt one because the committees will hear, well, they would hear hours and hours of testimony, which is not something that we engage in. But frequently legislators will say, this is something we all need to discuss as a body and not just this committee, for the very reason that there are kinks to be worked out and definitions to be decided and so on. So I hesitated to take the podium in the first place, but I certainly don't intend to take it to tell you what the policy ought to look like. I came to describe the state of the discussion at the time that we made our recommendation, which was that this ought to be discussed.
Can you elaborate on whether there was, or the extent of discussion on how it would affect prospective candidates to those positions? As was brought up, you know, it's kind of a 24/7 job availability. And that leads to a person who has a job that allows them to be flexible in their times and their hours to be at all of the different requirements, whether it's a noon meeting or a 3 p.m. meeting or a 6 p.m. meeting or 8 a.m. meeting. The meetings are varied in their times, and the flexibility of the council commissioners just has to be there to attend all those things. So by eliminating the potential elimination of insurance, then puts people who are either independently rich or business owners who have their own things, or becomes where people have full-time jobs so they can maintain that insurance, then would not be available necessarily for all those meetings.
I can affirm for you that that was not a point of discussion in the committee at the time of making the recommendation.
I will say that I, as Nate pointed out, I sat on that committee. Commissioner's not my day job, although it is my day job, sometimes and my night job. And my day job provides me with insurance, and I feel that your day job should provide you with insurance. And I don't know whether Patty, I've asked her to dive into some numbers, but the county is self-insured. It's not like we're paying just a simple premium on each individual. It is a substantial amount of money that the insurance costs are individuals. I've never taken the insurance. I sat on the school board for 12 years, and they got full insurance for $1. I did not take that because I did not feel it was right for tax dollars to pay for a part-time job. And that's still my feelings today, only I'm one of 3. So, but I did want to let the public know that's how I feel about it. Insurance is a very expensive endeavor for the county and will not get any cheaper. Tomorrow it'll cost more. So that's my feelings.
I'm in the same boat as Mark, is how I view the possibility for insurance for these positions that we're talking about here today with commissioners and council. Thing that I've been thinking the most about, I think, is when the sunset is on the insurance. And the thing that I think I keep coming back to is when each one of us had been elected, whether you're on it or not, it was the possibility. And so there are members of the council, and I know I'm not on it for the commissioners, but if there were, you had that when you began your term. And so my recommendation, if we were to eliminate that possibility, is to not eliminate it today or at the end of this year, but to eliminate it at the end of the current term that you're serving. So it would not be renewable if you were re-elected at the end of that term. Would be my recommendation. And that's up for discussion, of course, as well. But I think that since you were elected into that position with that possibility, that is probably a fair outcome.
I would agree with you on that statement.
I would support that also. I do take the insurance and it's a benefit. Being self-employed has allowed me to be available whenever. I have no fears of ghost employment or being fired from my job, to be flexible in that. I am concerned how that will play out for future potential candidates. If you are working a full-time job, it requires you to have insurance so that you can support yourself. That employer has a right to tell you that you can't do other jobs while you're receiving your money. So I have a large concern for that. I would support the elimination of the insurance at the end of each individual person's term. Moving forward, as far as the sunset goes, as long as the policy is written that any elected official who fails to maintain full-time hours loses those benefits.
I don't think that's fair. We didn't, in the insurance committee, the coroner and surveyor was not talked about, but I certainly think they need to be included.
I think that's something that is ripe for a discussion and looking into at a separate time. I think when we came here today, this was specific to the commissioners and the council. I think that is up for another discussion.
I think it's one discussion. In my opinion, that's how I'll support it. If any elected official who fails to maintain that, that would involve all elected officials turning time cards and hours. But to specifically just pick out the council and commissioners specifically and do that. I think it needs to be sweeping of the positions of part-time elected officials. In my discussions with people, their opinion is that no part-time person should get benefits. And I don't have an argument against that other than what I put out there. So I think the discussion needs to be all involving of all of the elected officials who are considered part-time or fail to maintain full-time hours.
Well, the other issue with that is that when we've gotten the recommendation initially, I don't even remember, a month and a half ago, it was dealing solely with these two bodies. And the notice was put on the agenda about these two bodies. There would have been no public notice for the potential of their insurance was going to be discussed.
I don't think we're ready to vote on a decision today, are we?
No,
I think
if we need
have
to table it, we can. Kick that around a little bit more, but I don't feel appropriate in making a decision on the encompassing nature of what Tony's talking about.
I would agree. I mean, we need to get their, have an opportunity for feedback.
I would make a motion that we table the insurance discussion. Wait for the feedback from other elected officials and on the part-time nature of that. I don't believe we have any elected officials, quote unquote, who aren't doing their hours and their diligence, but I do know by law that is a possibility. So I think the policy needs to be all encompassing based off of a definition of what part-time is and then tailor it to that.
Motion's been made to table it.
I suppose I will second it.
We'll table it till next meeting. Nate, thanks for coming.
Question from my end, do you anticipate needing me to take the podium again? Thank you.
County Lake McCoy update.
So great news coming out of Lake McCoy. Sean Durbin from the Board of Health went out, took 6 samples of the water, 2 at the dam, 2 up by the cabin area, 1 in the middle and 1 on the opposite side from the cabins. All of those water samples returned with reports of water safe to swim in. The highest number of E. coli in that was at 16.3. Anything under 100 is safe. So we're well below. We discussed and had a plan moving forward that we'll repeat that test in 90 days and continue to do that initially for at least 1 year on an everyday 90-day schedule to get a good base of what those numbers are. If they continue to be safe and good, we'll kind of reduce that load down to every 6 months or something moving forward for a while until we get a good baseline. Other discussions we had, and Diane kind of picked up on it a little bit in her presentation. We really just are coming up with questions. How can tax sale properties be sold? Overlaps, property disputes, things like that are going to be a big discussion for all of that moving forward. So we're kind of just figuring out what those problems are right now. It's really just a fact-finding phase to see where we're at. We're collecting information from old item stuff and old IDNR because they were involved in this in 2021. Find out whether those things have been resolved and what the resolutions were. To get a couple more documents from the Conservancy President Scott Doles on what one of the issues was out there. My reading of it, I believe it's probably been resolved at this point. The E. coli numbers would support that. But I'm working to make contact with IDEM and IDNR to just see what their status is on those and what resolutions they're going to require from their end, if any, for us to be able to move forward with anything. So other than the E. coli number test, which was very positive, we're really just still fact-finding and identifying the hurdles that are going to be out there. Once we get that, then we'll be able to come up with a plan and see what that is, and then look at any potential financing of that resolution. That's it. Oh, one more thing. I will be having a public meeting out at Lake McCoy for the residents or anybody that wants to come to that on August the 6th. It will be at Scott Doles' residence. He has a meeting room out there.
Sunday.
Yep, Sunday the 6th at 2 p.m. So that's an opportunity for anybody in the public or Lake McCoy who wants to speak. We'll have an update on that and come out. I'll be available for questions. And anybody from the committee that would like to go is welcome to come. But try to get their input also on what the problems are. If they're identifying things that they want to see fixed and have done and come up with resolutions for that. We're also trying to build a resource list. So when Kenny and the committee do start sending out property cleanups and scrap metal and stuff like that, just kind of list up, hey, these people will come out, take all your scrap metal and clean up that part of the property for you, and find some resources to assist the residents out there with some of the cleanup stuff, and maybe even some contractors or something, just a list of people who might knock the buildings down or this, that, and the other, and just provide them a path for assistance that we can do. That's all that.
Okay. Jeremy, you want to talk about Facebook page?
Yep, I sent you guys a social media policy that I had been working on. I just wanted to see if you guys had any input on that, anything that you think I need to add or address in a different way.
I didn't see it. I thought it was pretty
Okay. I'm gonna send it to Chad to get his side of that, just to make sure that there isn't anything else that is needed. I'm also gonna send it to Patty from an HR standpoint to get both of those specialized opinions on it. And once we get feedback from there, then next month's meeting, we can make a decision on if we get this off the ground or not.
Anyone else? Dawn, you have anything for us?
Not from the chamber, but a quick update from the economic development. The steering committee for the Ready projects is continuing to meet. They are talking about past projects as well as future Ready 2.0 projects. So if the county commissioners have any ideas on those, please give it to Brian Robbins.
Janet, Hal, anything?
Yep, we're doing good.
Doreen?
Everything's going good.
I don't have anything.
Thank you.
You don't have to ask, I don't have anything.
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to recess.
So moved.
We are recessed. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of the fair.
Some unequal treatment here. Walking around the fairgrounds all night, I saw him just sitting on a golf cart right around the circle. The old people again, they're not permitted. Yeah. Jeremy just gets escorted around everywhere. And golf carts.